Have you ever watched the movie and by the end of it, when the credits are rolling, you're like, what the f did I just watch? Well, over the past few months, I've watched a few of those kind of movies, sort of unsettling movies that made me go, what the f did I just watch? And I decided I'm gonna make a whole list of all these movies and, you know, make a whole video about it. Sort of like what you watching, but this is more like what you watched because I've already watched these movies. Anyways, let's get this show on the road. Studio A24 Studios is gonna be heavily featured on this list, as most movies are going to be from them, directed by Ari Aster, but we'll get into all of that a bit later. Let us not waste any more time and just get into it. The first movie is The Strange Thing About the Johnsons. Released in 2011 and directed by Ari Aster, The Strange Thing About the Johnsons is a dark and dramatic short film which is centered around the Johnsons, of course, a suburban family in which the son is involved in an abusive and incestuous relationship with his father. I did say it's gonna be some movie. The movie opens up with the father, Sidney, who accidentally walks in on his 12-year-old son, Asaya, discovering himself. You know, he's yanking one out. He's holding a picture, he's just yanking one out. His father walks in on him, reassures him that, hey, this is completely normal, you know, it's all fine, because Asaya is a little bit embarrassed. Sidney walks out of the room and we see that the picture that Asaya was holding was in fact a picture of his father. And from here on out, the movie does a very good job at keeping you in constant discomfort. Fast forward 14 years later at Asaya's wedding, where we see the cursed fruit that this relationship has become. You can see how dead inside the father is. You can only imagine what led this relationship to this point. During the wedding reception, Sidney and Asaya mysteriously disappear, and Sidney's wife, Joanne, Asaya's mother, goes looking for them. She looks around the house and she eventually catches them. She catches this abuse in the act and she does absolutely nothing about it. We are 3 layers deep in what the f now, like what is going on, and this is just the first act. As the movie goes, we learn more about the father and see that he's a writer and he's working on a new book, seemingly about the situation with his son. He states in the book that he feels guilty and reveals the nuances of this twisted relationship. Later that night, while Joanne is in the shower, Sidney leaves a memoir under her pillow, Cocoon Man Confessions by Sidney Johnson, which we are to assume chronicles the years of sexual abuse that he has endured at the hands of his son. Asaya finds this memoir first and confronts Sidney about it, yells at him and tells him that he will burn it and threatens him to not print any more copies.
And I'm burning this. And if I see another copy lying around, it's gonna be more than a slap on the wrist. I promise you.
Joanne seems to know about this situation, about this abuse going on in her home, but she turns a blind eye. We see this when she raises the volume on the TV while her husband is getting assaulted downstairs, so she doesn't hear any of it. It is twisted. Later in the movie, we see that Sidney has another copy of this memoir. He attempts to leave and is caught by Asaya. And then this whole confrontation happens, and during this confrontation, Asaya mentions that he never asked for any of this, and that this is something that you started.
I didn't ask for this. This is your thing, something you started. But I'm here now, and I'm in it, and I've given myself, and I've accepted you completely.
Asaya says that he wants the relationship to flourish, that it's a beautiful thing that shouldn't be corrupted by Sidney's confused conscience. So in Asaya's head, this is a seemingly normal relationship that is being blocked by Sidney's confused conscience, which is crazy. You can see how terrified Sidney is of his own son. This confrontation culminates in Sidney running out of the house and into the streets, where he gets hit and killed by a van. But it doesn't end there. That would be too cheap. The family has a funeral for Sidney, and later that night back home, Joanne confronts Asaya and asks him when this abuse started. They get into a heated argument which leads to a physical fight where Asaya tries to throw his mother into the fireplace. Only for Joanne to grab the fire iron and stab Asaya to death. She then throws the last copy of Cocoon Man into the fire, showing that even after Sidney and Asaya's death, she couldn't bring herself to, you know, fully find out exactly what led to this point, how this relationship happened, what was going on. And the movie sort of ends there. The movie only runs for 30 minutes, but this is a very unsettling, twisted 30 minutes. And you know, I heard about the plot of this movie before watching it, and I was really curious as to how they'll take such a taboo concept, a taboo, twisted concept, and make it palatable. And they did quite a good job. The movie is well shot, it flows quite well. I recently found out that Ari Aster actually challenged himself to take a taboo concept and see if he can make a good movie out of it. And I have to say, it kind of is. I would definitely suggest this movie because I don't think you've seen anything like it, or at least I haven't seen anything like this. This movie does a really great job at keeping you at the edge of your seat, constantly unsettled from when it starts to when it ends. I don't want to give any of these movies like ratings because they're all pretty good, but if I had to give this movie a rating, I'd give it a total 9 out of 10. Yeah, so okay, honestly, that's probably the most fucked up movie on my list. The rest are unsettling, but not as fucked up as this one. And this is like the shortest movie on the list. It's crazy. Moving on to Hereditary. Now, this is one of Ari Aster's more famous movies. You've probably seen it, probably heard of it. Hereditary is a psychological family drama horror movie that explores an intergenerational family curse. It is very dark and eerie, very well shot. The movie is centered around the Graham family. Annie Graham, her husband Steve, and their 2 children, Peter and Charlie. The movie opens up with the family preparing for Annie's mother's funeral. At her mother's funeral, Annie delivers a eulogy speaking about how secretive her mother was. She had secret rituals, friends, etc. It seems as if Annie's mother was involved in some creepy occultish stuff. We also learn at this point that Charlie has a nut allergy.
There aren't nuts in that, are there?
No.
As the movie goes on, we learn more about the kids, the son Peter and the younger daughter Charlie. And Peter, well, he's a pretty normal teenage boy who smokes bowls at break with his friends. Charlie has this weird thing she does. She keeps doing this that sound, and that sound has haunted my dreams for I don't know how long. Weird things are happening around Charlie. You know, she receives a few weird looks from random strangers at school. A whole bird flies into the window of a classroom and dies. Classic horror movie scene, right? We also learn that she chops off animals' heads and uses them for her art project.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Annie's secretly going to a support group where we learn more about the relationship she had with her secretive mother. She reveals that she didn't let her anywhere near Peter, but she was a significant figure in raising Charlie. Later that night, Peter lies about going to a school event in order to sneak out to a house party, and Annie asks him to take Charlie with, since it's a school event, right? Peter gives in and is like, fuck it, let's go. At the party, Peter leaves Charlie unattended to hit some fat bong rips with his friends, and she ends up eating some chocolate cake containing walnuts. Remember, she has the allergy. Charlie has an allergic reaction and falls into anaphylactic shock. Anaphylactic, is that how you say it?
Anaphylactic.
Anaphylactic shock. Yes, she falls into anaphylactic shock.
I think my throat's getting bigger.
And Peter drives off with Charlie, rushing to get her some help. Struggling to breathe, Charlie decides to stick her head out of the window to get some air. Peter swerves the car to avoid a dead deer on the road and... Traumatized by what has just happened, Peter decides to drive home and leave Charlie's decapitated body in the car, only for Annie to find it the next morning. Like, from this point in the movie, things are just gonna go downhill. Like, nothing good is gonna happen. Things are just gonna keep going down. Moving on to the second act of the movie, the family is in the pits with the amount of loss that they've had. Peter is struggling to cope at school and he is riddled with guilt. Annie goes back to her support group, and this is when we meet Joanne, the seemingly kind woman who relates to Annie's pain as they have a grief off.
My daughter was killed.
My son died.
Joanne invites Annie over to her house so they can have a chat, you know, so she can be her shoulder to cry on. In this part of the movie, you also see how Annie deals with the loss as she sculpts the disturbing scene of Charlie's death.
Jesus Christ, Annie. You're not planning on letting him see that, are you?
Who?
Peter. How do you think he's gonna feel when he sees that?
What? It's not about him.
Oh, no?
No, it's a neutral view of the accident.
We also learn by the tension at the family dinner table that Annie kind of blames Peter for Charlie's death.
I don't want to say anything. I've tried saying
Okay, so
things.
try again. Release yourself.
Oh, release you mean?
Yeah, fine. Release me. Just say it. Just say it.
Don't you swear at me, you little
The following day, Annie coincidentally runs into Joanne from the support group outside a grocery store, and Joanne tells Annie about this amazing seance she just witnessed. Joanne asks Annie to try it out. Annie is a bit skeptical at first, and Joanne asks her to go back to her place so they can try it out. Joanne shows Annie how to do a seance to communicate with Charlie, and she gives a little demonstration back at her house. And it works, and Annie runs home shook F because Joanne was doing the seance and she was getting her son to write on the blackboard. So Annie was like, what the f is going on here? There's some creepy shit. Joanne, I'm getting the f out of here. Annie leaves, she shook as f. She goes home. However, Annie decides to try the seance and, you know, she wakes the family up early in the morning asking them to participate. She creeps her whole family out when the seance actually works and she gets possessed by Charlie.
Hello?
Mom?
Mom? Mom?
I don't like this. Dad, I don't like this.
What's happening?
Please stop.
What's going on? Mom!
Please, you're really freaking me out. Please stop.
What's
Dad,
happening?
make it
Why is
stop,
everyone
please.
scared?
A bunch of creepy stuff starts happening around the family. Annie suspects Charlie's spirit has become malevolent. Malevolent. I don't know how to pronounce that. Malevolent. Annie sees some dark drawings in Charlie's sketchbook and decides to throw it in the fire. But as the book burns, so do her clothes. So it seems like destroying the book won't be that easy. Later in the movie, Annie goes through her mother's belongings and finds a link to Joanne. We see various pictures showing Annie's mother and Joanne together. She also finds a lot of weird books with a lot of weird symbols. Among all her mother's possessions, we see that her mother has been trying to invoke the demon King Paimon. And apparently it's a demon rule that if a demon is male, it has to possess the male host. I don't make the rules, the demons do. And then Annie learns now and sees that she's been completely bamboozled by Joanne. Peter is having heavy struggles at school. He cannot cope.
Clytemnestra is driven by revenge, just like Orestes.
Nice.
He seemingly gets possessed and bangs his head on the table, breaking his nose. Steve, the father, fetches Peter from school and arrives home where he's met with his wife going insane about what she had just learned about her mother. On the topic of her mother, Annie discovers her mother's body upstairs in the attic with a weird symbol painted above, and it's just completely creepy. It seems like her mother wasn't down with the rituals, you know, even when she's dead, she's continuing those secret rituals. Annie tells Steve about the book and tells him that Steve has to destroy the book. Steve isn't buying any of this. He doesn't trust Annie at all. He accuses her of digging up her mother's body from the grave and bringing it to the basement.
You dug up the grave. It was you, wasn't it?
What?
All those nights you were pretending to go to the movies.
He tells her to get some help, but Annie's very adamant that everything makes sense now. She pleads with Steve to trust him and that the only way this curse can be lifted is if they burn the book.
I tried to burn it. I tried, but my arm caught on fire on its own as if I was linked to it because I am linked to it. I understand this now. Steve!
She soaks the book in gasoline and asks Steve to throw it into the fire. Steve is a bit too hesitant. Annie gets frustrated and heats the book into the fire. And instead of Annie catching on fire, Steve does. And Steve just basically burns to death. As she looks at her burning husband in horror, a shimmering light passes through her and we are to believe that she is now possessed. Peter finds his father's burning body in the living room the next day, and his now possessed mother chases him into the attic, where she then later beheads herself with a piano wire. Peter sees some weird naked people inside the house. He runs scared, jumps out the window, and the shimmering light goes inside of him, and it now seems like he's the one who is possessed and is displaying Charlie's mannerisms with the... He goes to the treehouse where he finds Joanne and other Covenant members. We see Charlie's decapitated head crowned and Annie and her mother kneeling right before it. Joanne crowns Peter and addresses him as King Paimon, swears an oath to him and tells him that he is now free to rule over them.
You are Paimon, one of the 8 kings of hell. We have looked to the northwest and called you in. We've corrected your first female body and give you now this healthy male host.
Hail, Haman! Hail!
Now, Hereditary is a fucking twisted ass movie, and I kind of left out a few elements of the story to not give away too much, you know, just in case you want to see it. Just I'll ruin it for you. The horror genre has become a bit too stale and formulaic recently when it comes to the story behind all the horror. Hereditary is a breath of fresh air since it has a great story backing it and doesn't rely heavily on tropes that you would expect from a horror movie. The story itself is what keeps you on the edge of the seat. The attention to detail in the cinematography is just A24 standard. If I were to rate it, I'd give it a complete 10 out of 10. This movie is amazing. It runs for 2 hours, but the 2 hours go by pretty quickly because at no point do you feel like the movie is being slow. There's just constant story development going on. And yeah, that's pretty much it on Hereditary. I definitely suggest you check it out. It's a beautiful movie. You will not regret it. Grab a blanket, grab a fleece, and get your popcorn and just watch it. Get some family around. It'd be a nice time. It'd be a nice unsettling time for everyone. Alright, moving on to Mitsuma. This is one of my favorite movies on the list. It's another A24 banger. It's a dark drama involving some creepy culty shit. It explores themes of psychological trauma, and it's one of those movies that kind of get more disturbing as it goes. This Digital Spy article perfectly explains Mitsuma as essentially a 2.5-hour study of one woman's emotional journey towards emancipation from a toxic relationship. Let's get into it. The movie is centered around psychology student Danny Ador, who is left traumatized after his sister kills herself and her parents, filling their home with exhaust fumes. This trauma puts a strain on her relationship with her boyfriend Christian. Months later, Danny finds out that Christian and his friends Mark and Josh are planning a trip to Sweden. They were invited by their Swedish friend Pelle to a midsummer celebration at his commune. Christian pity invites Danny, and he's pretty convinced that she won't come through. Like, it's not her thing, she won't come through. And the boys are like, she's gonna come through.
She doesn't want to?
I invited her, and she accepted, but she's not actually coming to Sweden. Okay. Guys, you know what she's been going through.
Yeah, no, dude,
But she decides to accept the invitation, as this might kind of get her mind off of things, you know? When they arrive at the commune, they get a warm welcome and meet the other outsiders, Simon and Connie, who came along, and everyone decides they're gonna pop some shrooms. They're gonna shroom it up. Danny's a bit hesitant at first to do them, but she eventually does, and she gets a bit of a bad trip and ends up hallucinating her dead sister. Yeesh. The following day, they meet up with the rest of the commune members, and they get another big warm welcome, and the feast begins.
Welcome to Horga, and happy midsummer. It has been 90 years since our last great feast, and it will be 90 years before our next. And what poetry that it's now the hottest and brightest summer on record. We already have so much to give back.
The following day, the group of friends are invited to witness an Atestapa, a ritual where an elder jumps off a cliff and basically kills themselves because they've reached the end of their life cycle.
No! No!
One of the elders doesn't die upon impact, so they have to smash his head in to finish the job. And as he screams in pain, everyone in the commune screams along with him. The group of friends are completely taken aback and shocked, like what the just happened? Those two old people just jumped off and no one warned us.
You're the standing there watching. What the is wrong with you?
The commune leader explains to them that every member of the commune does this when they reach the age of 72. And I have to say, I kind of like this concept of, you know, at 72, just end it. You know, just go back to the earth from whence you came. Now, at this point, everyone is disturbed by what they just witnessed. Danny tries to leave, but Pelle manages to convince her to stay. One of the friends, Connie, decides to leave with her boyfriend, Simon, because this is a bit too much for her. That Atestapa was one Atestapa too far for her. And she's told that Simon already left for the train without her, and the driver will come back for her, which was weird. As the movie goes on, more of the outsiders start disappearing mysteriously from the commune. Another one of the friends, Mark, is lured away by one of the commune members, and later that day, one of the friends, Josh, is bonked deep in the night and dragged away by someone wearing Mark's face, it looks like. So the creepy shit has started happening now, and it's getting pretty weird. Following day, Danny and Christian try to kind of find out where their friends are, where they went, where they disappeared off to, and they get extremely gaslighted by Pele and the other members of the community. Danny gets coerced into drinking some shroomy tea and to participate in some ritual dancing competition. The dancing ritual takes a while. It's weird rules, like if you fall, you're out. So it's pretty much it. That's not weird rules. That's just the only rule. If you fall, you're out. Danny powers through and she wins, and she's the last one standing, and she's crowned the May Queen. She gets a warm embrace from the commune as they have a giant celebratory feast for her. Christian gets drugged and then coerced into engaging in a sex ritual to impregnate one of the female commune members, Maya. All this happens while Maya's mother and other female members of the commune watch. Like, as they're doing it right there, they're just standing right there and they're just watching them. And it doesn't only stop there. As they watch, they moan along with Maya. It's weird. It's very unsettling. What are the unsettling scenes in this movie? Danny goes looking for Christian and discovers Christian mid-ritual. She breaks down and cries, and the other women from the commune, similar to the ritual we just witnessed with Christian, cry along with her. There's something weird about this commune and this. It's like they're all just one person, you know. When one person cries, they all cry. When one person gets hurt, they all get hurt. It's pretty weird. After the ritual, Christian decides to run away. He's like, nah, this shit is a bit too much for me. He has to run away, and he runs into Josh's leg, one of his friends. Josh's leg planted. Who plants legs? That's fucking weird. And Simon's body torn apart. Remember, they said Simon was gone. When Courtney was like, she wants to leave, they told her Simon was gone to take the train. Psych, Simon wasn't gone. Simon was just torn apart, and he was put in this weird spread eagle form. Christian sees this and he gets magic dusted in the face by one of the commune members. The movie ends with Danny crowned as the May Queen and covered in flowers as the commune leader explains that they will now sacrifice a total of 9 human lives to purge the commune of all its evil. The first 4 victims are outsiders that Pele brought in, and the other 4 are commune members. As May Queen, Danny must choose the final member to be sacrificed. She has a choice between Christian, her boyfriend, and a member of the commune, a random stranger. Guess who she chooses? She chooses Christian, who is then stuffed into a bear carcass and placed in a temple along with the other human sacrifices. They set the temple on fire, and as everyone is burning, everyone in the commune sort of mimics the screams of these burning human sacrifices. And Danny initially watches in horror as she's watching Christian burn, or this whole temple burn, and slowly begins to smile. And that's it. That's how the movie ends. Now, like Hereditary, I didn't include all the smaller details in the movie because, you know, I want you to kind of see some of the things yourself. Mitsuma is beautifully shot. Each shot feels like it has a purpose, and upon your second watch, you start picking up on the symbolism and some of the foreshadowing in these shots. Throughout the entire movie, we follow the shift in Danny's mental and emotional state. More than that, we follow the shift in her relationship when initially she doesn't know exactly where she stands with Christian or where the relationship is, to her just deciding to sacrifice him, you know. Initially, she wants to leave the commune. She's disturbed by what she's seeing and she feels out of place. But then after she's crowned the May Queen and embraced by this community, she begins accepting this commune as her home. As unsettling as this movie is, it is really beautiful. I'd 100% recommend it. I'd give it a 20 out of 10. It is that good. Of this whole list, if you'd ever decide to watch one movie, make it be this one. Mitsuma is beautiful. Alright, moving on to the last movie in this list, we have The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Now this is a twisted and chilling family drama. And not only is this movie unsettling, it's just a bit weird. The movie is centered around Dr. Stephen Murphy, a cardiovascular surgeon, and his family. Early in the movie, we see Dr. Stephen meeting up with this kid Martin at a diner. He gets the boy some food, and later he gifts him an expensive watch. But this doesn't seem like a father-son relationship. It seems more like a mentor-mentee kind of relationship. Don't really know what's going on there. Later that night, we get introduced to the rest of the Murphy family, the wife and the 2 children, Kim and Bob. Stephen mentions that he's been spending some time with Kim's schoolmate Martin because Martin wants to be a cardiologist. Later that night, you get a peep into Mr. and Mrs. Murphy's bedroom activities. They do this weird general anesthetic thing where Mrs. Murphy just kind of lays there and Stephen does what he has to do. It's very weird. Anyways, Stephen invites Martin over for dinner at his house, and there's just something odd. Whenever Martin is on screen, it just feels low-key creepy. I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but it just feels very creepy. His mannerisms and his general face just give off a I have an ulterior motive vibe, you know? The kids hang out with Martin, seems like a fun time. Kim goes to the park with Martin and sings for him.
Shining up to the sky, 'cause we got the fire, fire, fire. Yeah, we got that fire, 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 and we're gonna let it.
We find out that Martin's father died in a car accident 10 years ago.
How did his father die?
Car crash. Driving home.
Martin returns this favor by inviting Stephen over to his house for dinner to watch his late father's favorite movie. At this dinner, we get introduced to Martin's mother, who mentions that she remembers Stephen from the hospital when he performed her husband's surgery. She also makes the moves on Stephen and tells him he has very soft hands.
You have lovely hands.
Thank you.
Most doctors have beautiful hands. So white and soft and clean.
Really?
But Stephen just is not into it and decides to just leave because this is not what he came here for. He just came here for a movie. Next thing you know, this woman is touching on his soft hands. Doesn't like it. He's completely creeped out at this point and decides he's going to step back from Martin a little bit because that's some weird going on. We see this at the barbecue that Stephen is having at his house when Martin calls Stephen asking him to meet at the diner and Stephen says he can't. Martin cannot pick up the signals that, hey bro, you're being weird. This guy wants nothing to do with you, really, because your mother just made the moves on him, and it's just awkward now. He just doesn't want to be around you. The following day, Stephen's son, Bob, is running late for school because his legs won't work.
I can't get up.
Bob, get up and get dressed. Stop messing around.
Dad, my legs, they're numb.
Yeah, his legs just won't work. It seems like he's paralyzed.
When your legs don't work.
They take him to the hospital for some checkups, but the doctors are like, nothing is wrong. You know, his legs start working again, miraculously. And then after a few minutes, they just stop. The doctors do more checks and scan, but with no luck. They just don't know what's happening with Bob. The following day, Martin visits Bob at the hospital. And while he's there, he asks Stephen to meet him at the hospital cafeteria. At the hospital cafeteria, Martin gifts Stephen a watch and tells him that because his father died at his hands, to balance things out, Stephen will have to kill one member of his family. He explains to Stephen that if he doesn't do this, each member of the family will slowly die till there's only one left.
Yes, it's exactly what you think. Just like you killed a member of my family, now you gotta kill a member of your family to balance things out, understand? I can't tell you who to kill, of course, that's for you to decide, but if you don't do it, they will all get sick and die. Bob will die, Kim will die, your wife will die.
He explains to Stephen that this would be a slow process, including 4 steps. First, paralysis of the limb. Second, refusal to eat to the point of starvation. Third, bleeding from the eyes. And fourth, death. He also explains that there's a time limit, that once one of the family members starts bleeding from the eyes, it's only a matter of time until they all die. It's at this point that Stephen's life completely falls apart. He tries to force his son to eat a donut with absolutely no luck. Stephen believes that Bob is faking everything and tries to force him to walk. He refuses to accept that Martin is behind all of this. The following day, the daughter Kim collapses during choir practice and starts, displaying the same symptoms as Bob, paralysis and refusal to eat. The following day, Stephen goes over to Martin's house looking to speak to him, but he's not there. Later, he tells his wife who Martin really is and that his father died under the knife. Anna, Martin's wife, asks if he had been drinking that night, and he says only a little. And it's not his fault that Martin's father died. He says that it's never a surgeon's fault when a patient dies. It's never the surgeon's fault at all. It's either the I don't know how to pronounce that name, anesthesiologist or someone else. It's just never the surgeon's fault. He's very adamant on that.
A surgeon never kills a patient. An anesthesiologist can kill a patient, but a surgeon never can.
The following day at the hospital, Martin calls Kim, and during this call, she briefly regains use of her legs and gets paralyzed again after the call ends. This convinces Anna that Martin is behind all of this. Anna decides to go over to Martin's house to give him a visit and plead with him to not let her children suffer for Stephen's mistakes. And Martin basically responds by saying this is the closest thing to justice as he can get. Anna is starting to suspect that her husband, who is a recovering alcoholic, had a bit too much to drink the night of the surgery and basically caused Martin's father's death. The following day, she decides to speak with Steven's anesthesiologist. Good lord, that name is so difficult to say. Matthew, the anesthesiologist, who after a good handy reveals that Martin had ingested a bit too much during the surgery and made an error. The kids are then transferred back home, and the following day Steven decides he's gonna kidnap Martin. Kidnaps Martin, beats him up, and demands that he reverses what he did to his kids. Martin tells him that time is running out. He's wasting time with all of this. He should pick someone else to sacrifice because he's wasting time. On the other side, the children, Kim and Bob, are arguing over who the father will choose. Time is running out, and Steven has to choose very soon. The following day, he visits the school principal to check which of his two children have the better results, which one of them is the best. He literally asked the principal which one of them is the best.
Do you especially like one of them more than the other? If you had to choose between them, which would you say is the best?
The principal refuses to answer. He has no answer for that question. Later that day, Kim drags herself to the basement and attempts to persuade Martin to fix her legs. When she fails to do so, she goes missing, and eventually they find her crawling through the neighborhood. And as Steven tends to her wounds, Kim volunteers and tells him that he should kill her, so she wants to be the one who gets sacrificed.
You gave me life, and only you have the right to take my life away.
But he refuses, like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. The next day, Anna releases Martin from the basement because, clearly keeping him there is not getting anything done. And Bob begins bleeding from the eyes, which is the third step in the process, meaning they're running, really running out of time. They have to make a move now.
Dad! Quick, Bob's dying!
Later that day, Steven decides instead of picking one family member, he's gonna do a sort of random draw and let this decision fall in the hands of fate. He ties his family up in the living room and covers their faces. He then covers his own face and starts spinning in circles with a loaded rifle. He starts firing recklessly. He misses 2 shots. And that's pretty much where the movie ends. I don't want to reveal who the unlucky family member was. You have to check that out yourself if you're interested. This movie was really twisted. The plot is not the only unsettling part of the movie. The cinematography and the sound design itself is very unsettling. It's made in a way that keeps you uncomfortable.
And I want you to tell me.
Not to mention the amazing acting. Barry Cogan, or I don't know how to say his surname. Anyways, he absolutely kills the chilling role of Martin. This is a beautiful movie, A24 standard yet again. I'd suggest this movie to literally anyone. I'd rate it a complete 10 out of 10. All the movies in this list are really good movies. None of these movies in this list missed at all. Alright, and that is my list of all the unsettling movies I have watched over the past few months. And honestly, of all the movies on this list, I have to say that the strange thing about the Johnsons, the first one, it was the shortest movie in the list, but it definitely broke me out of all of them, because the plot was just a bit too twisted for me. I don't know. Anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed that video. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you're watching this video and you're like, Quincy, these movies are a weak sauce, bro. This is nowhere near unsettling or disturbing, and you know a movie that is really unsettling and disturbing that you have watched, drop it down in the comments below. Maybe I'll make a second part of this video where I check out your suggestions, because I want to see more movies like this, Also, Happy New Year. I think we are still within the Happy New Year range. It's like 3 weeks, right? I think we're still within that range. See you guys in the next video. Stay safe. Peace.